guys, Matt, IronTrap Garage, working on the free T again. So this time of year is really difficult for filming update videos or progress on projects. We have Christmas and the New Year's, of course, all kind of jammed together. And while I am pretty hardcore and work in my shop, even on the holidays and most people take a break, I still a lot of times end up doing a lot of work. But normal people, have to do family stuff or choose to do family stuff and families in town, and I don't have as much help as I normally do. So the updates in the last video, a couple of them are going to be a little slower because of not having a ton of help to get some things done. The last video we did was just a quick little update where we made this top bar. While it took a lot of time, the video was pretty short, but it was a lot of time getting this top bar to fit. What I've decided after sitting in the car, as I alluded to in the other video, is that we sat a little too high in the car and I wanted to redo the seating area, and that meant I had to redo the body mount area along with this tubing. So I'm going to work on getting the uprights for this tubing made today. Since I don't have a ton of extra hands, I should be able to handle that myself. And I'll also get the straight section in the bottom connected to these two uprights. That will get me set up for where we're going to make the bends in the seating area. And I've dropped this tubing down just above where the notch is in the back of the body for the torque tube. That's going to get me to sit probably a couple of inches lower than we were before, 2-3 inches lower. And basically it's going to put the seating area pretty much level with the top of the tunnel in the back. And we'll get us sitting nice and low. Then we can also kind of redo some of this this mounting stuff in here and make it all flow a little bit better. So today I'm going to work on these uprights, show you guys how to notch them and get them all set, and we'll be moving one step forward. I know this is a lot of back and forth. We were doing some sheet metal work, but the more I stare at this car, the more there's things that I want to redo, because we have switched gears and decided to make the car a little nicer than our original plan of tossing it together. So I'm going to get started on cutting and notching some of these tubes and getting them tacked in place. Okay, so I got the tubing all cut to length. You also saw me clean it up with the Contour SCT, so everything is all fresh and clean. We got the metal from my favorite local metal salvage yard, Glicks, and everything has a little bit of a surface rust on it. So if you go over it with the SCT, it cleans up the mill scale and also any surface rust that kind of was left on it. So what I've done now is I measured my length, I cut it to length of the overall length that I need, and basically what I did is I added I took the diameter of the tubing, and I basically am planning on notching the tubing, so I'm building everything out of the same size tubing versus last time we just kind of grabbed whatever we had out of the metal bin and put it together, and we had some different size tubing so stuff didn't fit as nicely as it should. Since we're using round tubing and everything should fit together nicely, I want to notch the tubing. So I took the length of the distance between the top tube and the bottom tube, and then I added basically what we needed for putting the notches in, so it's going to be a little bit longer overall than we need, but when we put that notch in, it should slide right in and fit nicely. So what you can do is you can get a tubing notcher. Eastwood sells a nice tubing notcher that you can put in the vise and use to notch tubing. If you need an odd size, that may not work depending on the kit. What you can also do, and I wanted to show it this way, I do have the Eastwood notcher, but I also wanted to show another way that you could do it for you guys that maybe just have a nice array of hole saws already. If you have a drill press with one of these little machinist vise that you can move back and forth, you can clamp it in the vise, do it on a drill that you can, a drill press that you can change the speed. Or if you have a mill, of course, like this, you can also do it. So what I did is I made marks. I used actually from the mill when making this tubing, there are lines that run down it just from how it feeds through, and I marked those a line on either end so I can notch it, the center of the notch the same on either side. And what I'm going to do is basically take half of the hole saw and run it down through, and that will put a notch in it. So I'm using an 1.25" OD hole saw because we're using 1.25" tubing, and that should give me a notch that is half of that, because we're not going all the way through, and that will allow us to basically fit it up around the tubing. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm not the best explaining this, but that's what we're gonna do. So if you guys have a drill press, you can also do that, like I said, but you probably wanna try and use a drill press that you can turn the speed down so that you're not cutting quite as fast as some of the drill presses turn. It's a little better to turn the speed down. So I'm gonna put the notches in either end of this, should be able to fit it in, and then we'll have one tubing kind of set up. Alright, so this is right after being cut. I didn't even dress anything up with the sander yet on these edges. It's a pretty sharp point actually. We're going to have to knock one of these edges down because that tubing fits tight into the bead in the back of the body. So one of these edges isn't going to be able to wrap around enough because there's not enough room between the sheet metal and the tubing for this to fit, so I have to knock the tip of this down a little bit, but you can see the fit up there. Pretty good. I've done it by hand for years. The hole saw, either getting a tubing notcher kit that's all in one, or if you have a good hole saw kit. My hole saw is probably getting a little weathered. It has a little bit of a hop in it, depending on the setup you have. Some may be more true than others, but for what we're doing, it fits up pretty nice. So what I can do is dress these all out in here, smooth it out, knock down the one edge, and then we should have it fitting the top pretty good. And then we can notch this other side here where I've already put a line that lines up with the center of the notch on the other side, and we can notch that one and fit it up and move on to the next one. Alright guys, so I got this, the uprights and the crossbar welded in place. I'm really happy with how it came out. Using those Eastwood fixture blocks kind of really helped me get this moving along a little more quickly without having some extra hands here today to help me set everything up. I was able to tack weld those, the uprights and the crossbar in place, and that set with that fixture block, that set everything so the gaps were really nice and tight. Everything was set at 90 degrees and it didn't move when I tack welded it. And I was able to just take this whole back rest section and use jack stands to push it up and set the angle that I wanted, kind of like the lean back of this bar. And I tack welded it in place, and it went pretty well. There was a lot of time in between that we didn't get on film of setting up the laser, checking with the angle finder to make sure that everything was correct, standing back, staring at it 1,000 times, and before I actually went ahead and welded it. But that's part of these projects. You gotta really make sure that stuff sits and looks right before you go ahead, or you might be cutting it apart again like we're doing here. Whoops. So now that this part's done, I ran out of tubing, but I'm gonna get some more tubing this week to bend up the bottom hoops, and we're gonna connect them to the B-pillar area, and that's gonna really help tie this whole back tub area together. It's gonna get it to be a lot more strong. It's gonna be a lot stronger, and it's also gonna give us kind of an area to start building our seat area off of. So I think this is gonna all flow a little better. It's gonna make it a little easier when we get to the point of doing the upholstery and finish work for the inside of the car. This is going to make it a lot nicer. So the seating area has probably dropped down about, I don't know, 2 or 3 inches now. So that's going to help big time with the seating position. I mentioned earlier that I thought we were sitting up too high. You're going to sit down in the car a little bit more, which should be cool. And I'm going to probably build kind of like a seat pan area that will kind of get you sitting down in as well. And then we can just make little pads that you basically sit on when it gets all upholstered. So worked out a little better than it was before, which is, even though it's a bummer to cut this stuff apart, that's really what matters in the end, is that I am a lot happier with how it all looks and how it all flows. And when somebody takes this car apart many, many years from now, they're not going to be like, what the hell was he thinking when he made this? So that's all I have for this one. I appreciate you guys following along. As always, we do videos on Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. I used to mention it, what car we were working on what day, but really as of late, it's just been all work on the T because we're trying to get this thing done for the spring. Please share, like, comment. We appreciate all the feedback that you guys give in the videos. I do my best to get in and respond to every comment in there. So I really do read every comment, and I really do appreciate you guys giving all your feedback. Thanks guys, catch you later.